This is The Download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news in the business of podcasting, brought to you by Spreaker from iHeart. I'm Gavin Gaddis, in for Tom Webster. Here's what you need to know for today, Monday, April 8th. Happy eclipse to all those who celebrate. First up, Evolution's 2024 keynotes are here. Couldn't make it to Evolutions by Podcast Moevment last month. The Podcast Moevment YouTube channel has uploaded all 5 keynote speeches to the official keynote playlist. The 2024 section of the official playlist kicks off with Tom Webster's keynote, in which he starts off with a slide from Sounds Profitable's latest advertising study, The Ad Bargain, before branching out into key relevant data from previous studies. Webster gives a big picture of the podcast advertising landscape and what the industry can do to grow. Up next, The Breakfast Club interview with Eric Adams flexes podcasting's might. Recently, The Breakfast Club served as an example of how podcasts can be an effective tool for hard-hitting journalism. Last week, the show interviewed embroiled New York City Mayor Eric Adams, known for his tendency to avoid complicated conversations with journalists. Seizing the opportunity, The Breakfast Club brought on a public defender with the Legal Aid Society to run a hard-hitting interview with statistics to back up tough questions. While successful, the move does trade on the fact that The Breakfast Club is a live radio show first and a podcast second. It's harder to avoid negative PR when walking out of a live interview than it is to simply leave the studio of a pre-recorded podcast. If journalistic podcasts are to survive outside of softball questions, they need the financial backing of brands to be able to have the confidence to ask questions that might turn a 50-minute interview into a 5-minute one. And finally, a closer look at what's driving and will continue to drive mergers and acquisitions in ad tech in 2024. While it's impossible to precisely predict when conditions will be just right for another big wave of mergers and acquisitions, a key factor is the cost of borrowing money. Potential political shakeups to the FTC after the 2024 presidential election will also present an uncertain future for how M&A might evolve over the next few months. While there are sizable deals happening, like Walmart's acquisition of Vizio or Triton Digital's acquisition of Sounder, all signs point to investors going back to basics. We are past the days of inefficient tech companies fetching big price tags purely because they managed rapid growth in a short period of time. As for the rest of the news, Chicago Public Media has announced a 15% layoff of staff that includes scaling back WBEZ's podcasting unit and the cancellation of non-newsroom podcasts. And in similar news, several sports podcasters have broken the news on X that SB Nation has cut their entire podcasting arm. And for a research database snapshot, we have a graph from last week's study, The Ad Bargain, in which respondents are replying to the question, does seeing/hearing an advertisement on this medium make you more or less likely to purchase a product or service? With podcasts, we have 37% of people say it makes them more likely to purchase, 52% have no effect, and 10% makes them less likely to purchase. And then with YouTube, it's 33% more likely, 58% no effect, 9% less likely. And finally, with streaming TV, 32% more likely, 60% no effect, and 9% less likely. Now, first off, the top ones are promising numbers. We got 37%, 33, and 32 for more likely to purchase a thing from an ad. But what makes this interesting to look at is the bottom part of the graph. Only 9 to 10% of Americans are actively cranky about ads in their ad-supported media, which is a good sign. Be sure to check out all the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app or at soundsprofitable.com, where you can also subscribe to the newsletter version. The Download is written and produced by Brian Barletta, myself, and Tom Webster. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis. Download us tomorrow.